everyone, it's Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary. Today is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020, and I was here working in my home office. Most of the snakes that I work with don't wake up and get active until the evening. However, we have a children's python, Antaresia childreni, named Steuben, who seems to be active whenever I am. And he wanted out of his enclosure today, so I let him out and brought him up here into my front office while I was working, but he was just getting into everything. He wouldn't find a spot to rest, or he wouldn't stay on the activity stand. He was exploring all over the room. It's been a couple of weeks since he's eaten, and so I decided to just do an impromptu target training session with him and feed him at the same time. So that's what you're about to see. This was nothing that was pre-planned. It was just an activity that I gave him to do because he was awake and being active anyway. And it provided him a little bit of mental stimulation and physical exercise, as well as it was time to feed him, and so he got to eat his meal this way. And this session just demonstrates how you can use a target in lieu of hand signals or voice commands that you might use with a dog or other animal in order to call them to a location, call them to you, or get them to station somewhere. I just used the target to direct Steuben as to exactly where I wanted him during each of our 3 tries, and then once he was at the final destination that I wanted him at, which was a little temporary holding tub, I went ahead and carried that to his enclosure and gave him the choice as to whether he wanted to remain out or go into his enclosure, and he chose to go into his enclosure. As I said, I didn't pre-plan it. The camera angles may not be exactly correct. I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things that we do here with the snakes, some of the useful things that you can use target training for, and I hope you enjoy it. This first time, I just targeted him out of that box of gloves. He had been in that box of nitrile gloves, and I wanted him to come out of it, so I just targeted him out of the box. It's not unusual for the snakes to strike at the target at some point during their training, and I just ignore that and wait for them to calmly approach the target before I give the reinforcement. This second time, I wanted him to come off of that table, that portable work table that he's on, and move over to the activity stand, and ideally inside that basket, just as an illustration of how you can get the snakes to move to a temporary holding container that then makes it easy for you to pick up the whole container and relocate them. It's not unusual, the striking. Steuben is an animal that has some issues with impulse control when he gets excited about eating. I just ignore that and wait for a moment to reinforce at the right time. This third time, I wanted him to now move out of the basket, off the activity stand, onto this table where there is a temporary holding bin, which I then was going to use to move him back to his enclosure. Not that I can't just pick him up and move him. This is just an exercise for me and for him, and to illustrate what you could do if you were working with a snake that you were unable to handle. It's a really handy tool to be able to have them trained to move to a target. It gives you as the keeper the ability to communicate to the animal where you would like them to be, and it also gives the animal choice and control over their own actions. He moves to the target. He's very excited about eating again. And once he approaches the target and touches it with his nose without striking at it, I go ahead and I give him the reinforcement. Now I'm just going to pick up the whole bin and move him back to his enclosure. If this was a snake that wasn't comfortable around people, wasn't comfortable being handled, obviously you would want their whole body in the bin and you would want to put the lid on before you attempted to move it. That's not the case with Steuben. This was just an exercise for both of us, so I just picked up the bin and moved him back to his regular enclosure, which he chose to go in on his own. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to always be kind and love your animals.